Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello, family.
Hope everybody is doing very well out there.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to be talking just a little bit about the Earth's magnetic field, evolutionary leaps, and rapid evolution.
Yeah, we're going to try to make sense out of the nonsense.
Well, there is definitely a lot going on right now, and so many people are facing, they're facing like their own personal challenges and evolution at the same time. I think a lot of people are going through a lot of emotional turmoil because of what's happening right now with the cosmic radiation. As we know, we are in the midst of a magnetic pole reversal, which may end up being an excursion, which means that it starts to reverse and at some point snaps back. That's what's happened lately. Or we could have a complete pole reversal where north becomes south, south becomes north. And in the middle, we're going to have a period of very interesting times. And we see this as science news. Earth's magnetic field can change 10 times faster than previously thought. A new study by University of Leeds and University of California at San Diego reveals that changes in the direction of the Earth's magnetic field may take place 10 times faster than previously thought, as our science is constantly being revised and changed.
Well, I kind of feel like they have to revise it and change it because the truth is coming closer to the surface and they can only keep stuff hidden for so long.
Besides that magnetic pole reversal, which is underway, which the science shows us it really started to happen in earnest back like around 1850s. And keep that in mind, 1850s, right? We also have, obviously, a grand solar minimum underway, which some say it's going to be as deep as the Maunder minimum, or maybe even deeper. With both these things going on, what's happening is the Earth's magnetosphere, which is that protective shield around the Earth, which keeps out a lot of particles from entering into the atmosphere, entering into our bodies, and affecting everything on the Earth. Well, that is in rapid decline, so we are getting hit and bombarded with more and more cosmic energy all the time. When we look at the human family tree, we see there's been many, many different types, and this is just a few, of hominid species, humanoid species that have walked upon the Earth. And, perhaps the tendency is to make them look a little bit more ape-like and seem a little bit more crude and perhaps not as intelligent as they really, really were. And of course, we have learned that there's so many more species that we didn't even know about like 20, 30 years ago. We've been discovering them. So, beings like Neanderthals, well, we're familiar with that. But how about Denisovans, or how about Homo habilis and some of the others that have come along? And we see this article, this was just out today. Rapid evolution means humans are now being born without wisdom teeth. Some babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and more people have a previously rare additional artery in their forearm, as humans undergo a microevolution, a new study is suggesting. And scientists in Australia have discovered several changes in humans which are appearing over a very short period of time. Dr. Tegan Lucas of Flinders University in Adelaide said faces are also becoming shorter due to changes in our diet, and our smaller jaws mean there's less room for teeth. Wow, that sounds like we're going to turn into
Gray.
Yeah, right, right. Grays don't really have any teeth. They don't really have much of a nose. They don't really have much of an ear. Interesting, but they got a big cranium.
They do.
So this is happening in a time as we have learned to use fire and processed foods more. A lot of people are just being born without wisdom teeth. The research team also found an increasing prevalence of people being born with additional bones in their arms and legs, as well as shorter faces or with abnormal connections.
Which is really, really interesting that they're coming out with this information right about now. And we've been trying to talk about these things all along and explain how this has been happening. And it's not just with our physical 3D body, it's with our emotions and our minds too.
So with abnormal connections of two or more bones in their feet as well. Well, I started to think right off the bat, just think about it. So many of us are much more sedentary. We're just typing all day long, and using our phones and everything. So, changes might happen in our hands and in our forearms and in the rest of our body as well. So, in addition, the investigation led by Dr. Lucas, along with the University of Adelaide professors, Masij, I guess that's how you would say it, Hennenberg, and Jalia Kumartalake, showed a significant increase in the prevalence of median artery since the late 19th century. And that's interesting, the timing. Remember, we were talking about the magnetic pole reversal coming in the middle of the 18th century. So we're starting to see changes more now. The artery forms while baby's in the womb and is the main vessel that supplies the blood to the forearm and hand, but disappears during gestations, replaced by the radial and ulnar arteries. Since the 18th century, anatomists have been studying the prevalence of this artery in adults, and our study shows it's clearly increasing. The prevalence was around 10% in people born in the mid-1880s compared to 30% in those born in the late 20th century. So that's a significant increase in a fairly short period of time when it comes to evolution. This increase could have resulted from mutation of genes involved in the median artery development or health problems in mothers during pregnancy, or both actually. She added, if the trend continues, a majority of people will have the median artery in the forearm by 2100. Ms. Lucas said the studies demonstrates that humans are evolving at a faster rate than at any point in the past 250 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just our physical bodies too. It's our energy bodies. They've even been able to show tests where our energy bodies are thicker.
This is the actual study from Flinders, and I think it's so interesting the way the first statement, humans haven't developed mutations or superpowers just yet. Wow. But a new study shows our species is evolving in unique ways, and changes in natural selection could be a major reason. And I know there's those out there that are very, very fundamentalist in mind and think that, there's one creation, we've been exactly the same since that. Yet again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, there is evolution. That's just a natural process that occurs. Everything evolves. Everything is energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It simply changes. We are energy, ultimately. We simply do change. Consciousness evolves. Yet that also doesn't mean that there really isn't a quote-unquote creation story, or maybe a de-evolutionary story as well. So that's really interesting as well. And so I'll have all these links for you guys. And, this is from Science News talking about this as well. So it's interesting that the timing of this and this rapid evolution kind of, to me, it seems like it goes along with the magnetic pole reversal or excursion that's underway. And here, you could also, though, definitely say that the ability of food and having better nutrition can also help. That is for sure. However, a lot of evolution comes out of stresses. Stress and challenging environments can produce rapid change as well.
Yeah, and what's that saying that necessity is the mother of all inventions?
And here we see toddler first in world diagnosed with extra strand of DNA, 3 strands. And Dr. Brenda Fox has talked about the fact that we are mutating towards 12-strand DNA. And when we look at all the references to the number 12, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles, 12 signs of the zodiac, there is as above, so below, which, again, terrifies people of certain mindsets. But all it means is that, the universe is fractal in nature, and there's certain patterns that replicate themselves. And, there are legends that at one time humans were like the gods, and we lived thousands of years and had amazing superpowers. And there are also, lines of thinking that that's exactly where we're heading back to right now, as we leave the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, and we head into an age of enlightenment and rapid change, and also of positivity and amazing possibilities. So this boy, his name was Alfie Clamp, He was from Warwickshire in northern England, and he has an extra arm on his 7th chromosome. And, extremely rare condition that they discovered when he was 6 weeks old. And so 3-strand DNA, and then we see this coming out, quadruple helix DNA seen in human cells. This is from 2013. So they've seen 4-stranded DNA at work in human cells for the first time. Yep. Interesting, isn't it not? And DNA is not just physical, so it extends out into the spiritual body as well. And we know of this missing limb syndrome, where people still have the feeling that a limb's there, even if it's been, phantom limb, even if it's been chopped off. Well, that's because the energetic side of it, the energetic template, is still there. So again, we are multidimensional beings. Our bodies are not just physical, they're energetic as well, and that extends all the way up into very, very high densities. We're like, as I've said many times, the Russian dolls. So when you're looking at the physical body, you're looking at the very innermost Russian doll, and there's many, many layers. Psychics like Barbara Brennan have been able to see 14 or 15 layers to our energy body, and that's just amazing, but it's reality.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of changes that our human bodies and our energies are going through. And I feel they've known this all along. It's just they're having to drip it out now because things are going to become more and more obvious.
Yes, and there are changes coming in. It's fascinating that there is definitely, like, if you go on to Netflix and look at all the movies, well, you don't even need Netflix. I mean, just look at the movies in the movies, all about superheroes and stuff. And perhaps the superheroes of today equate to our myths and legends of the gods of yesterday. But it's fascinating when we see a recurring theme of persecution of people with extra abilities throughout all these movies about superheroes and mutations. And then, of course, we see the testing going on in the world in regards to the plague that's upon the land. And right away it came to me that it's not just that they're looking for this quote-unquote dis-ease. They're looking for markers of genetic mutation because they know in this time period people are going to be developing amazing abilities.
They are, and that can leave people with some confusion and some situations that they're not really understanding. So that's going on too, and it's a pretty big issue.
And I've done videos talking about the yogic superpowers, or siddhis is the term that's used, that can be developed through deep meditation and intense practice over time. And those include things like telepathy, the ability to read minds, the ability to see energy, the ability to manipulate things, telekinesis, all sorts of abilities that anybody could have developed even in ages past, with intense practice. And the Buddhist monks, again, have done amazing things. I've seen QiGong masters that can generate enough heat to light paper on fire. We see Wim Hof, who's able to withstand such cold temperatures that he should be dead. Anybody should be dead. And yet his body temperature, when exposed to water that's just above freezing, and he's out in sub-freezing conditions for hours and hours and hours, he's able to raise his body temperature up past, the normal body temperature. So the mind is super powerful, and we can actually help affect these genetic changes. As the Kundalini is released, the chakras are open, Kundalini flows, start developing the Merkaba, the light body. All this is again where, as I've said before, science and spirituality will come together at some point. They are coming together, even though mainline science wants to hide the truth, and they're all about hiding the truth. Neanderthal genome reveals 4th mysterious human lineage. And so we know that there were other beings out there, such as Neanderthals and Denisovans, which were interbreeding with humans, and perhaps, some of our legends of the Nephilim, are relating to this, and maybe the Nephilim are right in our face, quote unquote. But again, because we're looking at things in a distorted lens, and many people are looking at the Nephilim as non-material beings, descending. And, while there are angels of the angelic realm, which is much higher in the dimensional perspective than where we are at right now. There are also angels in the meaning of the Greek word from which it comes, which just simply means messenger, which could have had a very solid 3D body and be humanoid and actually interact and interbreed as well. And so there is also a mysterious fourth human lineage that they have not found yet. And perhaps that relates to some of our Anunnaki legends as well. So very fascinating. So interbreeding among at least 4 different species of early humans. And of course, many people have Neanderthal DNA. So this comparison conducted by a very large group of genetic scientists shows that Neanderthals and Denisovans are very closely related, and their common ancestors split off from the ancestors of modern humans about 400,000 years ago. Neanderthals and Denisovans split about 300,000 years ago. Though Denisovans and Neanderthals eventually died out, they left behind bits of their genetic heritage because they occasionally interbred with modern humans. The authors estimated that between 1.5 and 2.1% of the genomes of modern non-Africans can be traced to Neanderthals. Denisovans also left genetic traces in modern humans, though only in some oceanic and Asian populations. The genomes of Australian Aborigines, New Guineans, and some Pacific Islanders are about 6% Denisovan genes, according to earlier studies. The new analysis finds that the genomes of Han Chinese and other mainland Asian populations, as well as that of Native Americans, contain about 0.2% Denisovan genes. The genome comparisons also show that Denisovans interbred with a mysterious fourth group of early humans also living in Eurasia at the time. That group had split off from the others more than 1 million years ago, and may have been a group of human ancestors known as Homo erectus, which fossils show was living in Europe and Asia 1 million or more years ago. The thing about Homo erectus, and in my studies, like I've always found this fascinating. So I was studying this when I was like 12 and 13. It was that, according to the line of thinking, there was 2 different types of Homo erectus that evolved. One Asian and one that was over in Africa. So that group had split from others more than 1 million years ago and may have been the group of human ancestors known as Homo erectus, which fossils show was living in Europe and Asia 1 million or more years ago. The study also indicates that the Neanderthal woman was highly inbred. She was the daughter of a very closely related mother and father who were either half-siblings who shared the same mother, an uncle or a niece or an aunt or a nephew, a grandparent and a grandchild, or double first cousins, as you see how it's all interrelated, and with that potential unknown one over there too, which is really interesting. So further analysis suggests that the population sizes of Neanderthals and Denisovans were small, and that inbreeding may have been more common in Neanderthal groups than modern populations. It's all very, very fascinating, and especially the fact that we are changing, and we are changing rapidly. And that makes me think of Robert Felix's book, Magnetic Reversals and Evolutionary Leaps, because he says in these times, exactly in these times, is when we come up with brand new species.
It is, and all we know is really what's been put in front of us. The information we have is simply what we've been taught. So in a lot of ways, I think it's an important thing to do, and a good thing to do is kind of explore this information using your own mind. Take things, if it doesn't make sense, ask yourself, well, what else could this be? Because they're not going to tell us everything, and it's really important to know where we've been, because it does help us get to where we need to go.
And, just sort of not related, but I just thought I would include in this one, we see asteroid Bennu is covered in carbon-bearing organic material consistent with ingredients for life, says NASA. So scientists have discovered a treasure trove of data during the OSIRIS-REx mission. Interesting, don't they? Mm-hmm. Osiris, right? And Rex, king. Including the presence of water and traces of organic material which may well seed life on planets such as our own across the galaxy. So, they just say it's got everything you would need for life. And think about that too, because what if something like that happens? We're talking about asteroids in the sky. What happens if like something like this impacts the Earth and there's some different genetic material on there that could perhaps affect us in some way, perhaps help change our DNA, or introduce something totally new to the planet as far as that goes.
Yeah, we just don't know. So it's kind of a fun game to play with yourself, and I just ask yourself, I wonder how things were made. I wonder the possibilities, and put yourself in that place like a child and just get creative.
Yeah, and what if there are intelligences out there that see something like this, recognize that this asteroid has something new that could be added to the mix on Earth that might end up creating some form of mutation or some sort of new life form just in total, and just give it a nudge so that it comes in and impacts somewhere, perhaps not taking out a huge population of people, but perhaps planting new seeds of life, of something all new. All very interesting, total conjecture there, but at the same time, maybe, just maybe.
Maybe.
So guys, I want to thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.